let's just
Yes.
focus on the raw numbers here. I mean, how many people have been killed in Gaza, and what is the proportion of combatants to non-combatants? And because one thing we're dealing with here is that for the longest time, people have simply been restating numbers that have come straight out of the so-called Ministry of Health, which is really Hamas in Gaza. I don't think anyone can doubt that many thousands of people have died and that many thousands of non-combatants have died. But what do we know about the numbers and the proportion, or do we simply actually not know with any confidence at this point?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting how many times I've gotten the question unique to this war only. What is the combatant to civilian kill ratio? It's just, I, of course, having studied so many urban battles, can tell you what it was in the past. I can tell you so the question was, how many have died? The answer is nobody knows. But for some reason unique, war is a contest of will. We have to fight what the narrative is. So because unique to this war alone, and I don't say this based on opinion, but empirical evidence, this is the first war in history where anybody has had a running count of the civilian casualties down to the single digit in real time. I mean, if you just imagine...
A fake running count.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking the actual opinion of a third party who is affiliated with the enemy, Hamas. So the Gaza Health Ministry is a Hamas, because Hamas wasn't just the military force, it was the government, and you couldn't be part of the institution if you're not. It's complex, but to get a number from within the environment, from the enemy, and say that's the number that the entire world runs with no caveats. One, it's physically impossible to know how many civilians have died in Gaza. It has never been done in the history of war. The greatest battle since World War II was the Battle of Mosul in 2016 and 17. And a year after the battle, the Iraqi government still did not have a number in which how many civilians had died. Now, it went all the way from 9,000 to 40,000. The mayor of the city said it was over 40,000 because of how many people are in the rubble, how many people are unaccounted for, who left, and there's no report on where they went. You can imagine in a very dense urban environment, like how could you possibly have a number? But if I ran with the numbers that we all use, so let's say the Gaza Health Ministry, as we're talking, says 33,000 civilians have died. Actually, it's not. Let me caveat myself, is that the Gaza Health Ministry says that 33,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza since October 7th. That number, if we are truthful, and we used Hamas's numbers or the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers, it accounts for every death that has happened in Gaza, no matter the cause. It includes all Hamas members, anybody who died of natural causes, anybody who died actually from Hamas's hands, because of the 12,000 rockets that Hamas has launched out of Gaza towards Israel since October 7th, 20% of those have landed inside of Gaza and killed many Palestinian people of Gaza. But if we ran with the 33,000, which includes everybody that's died, and we took Israel's number, because if we're going to believe Hamas, why don't we believe Israel, who says, given our battle damage assessments, we believe we've killed 12,000 Hamas combatants. So you subtract 12,000 from 33,000, you get about a 1 enemy to 2, if not 1 to 1 of enemy to civilian ratio, which would be historically low to any urban battle. And this is a war, not a battle. So it's actually really interesting how somebody will try to take a battle from the past, especially the last 30 years, and compare it to the war in Gaza, which includes, like 10 massive urban battles together, so that they aggregate the numbers to kind of tell the message they want. It would still be a historically low, given all the context of urban combat, where you have a civilian population where no matter what you do, many of them still stay. You're trying to separate enemy from civilian or combatant to non-combatant, like the Battle of Mosul, where, it took 9 months for 100,000 Iraqi security forces to get 4,000 to 5,000 ISIS members out of the city. And they killed 10,000 civilians in the process of that 9-month battle to liberate the city. So that's a 1 to 2 ratio. But this is, the fact that every person that I ever interview asked me this question is really shocking, because it's never been the question. That's not how the law of war works. But we have this number in our head that Like, clearly, this means everything that's going on is illegal and Israel is purposely killing civilians, because look how high the number is.
Yeah.
Irrelevant of the context of the war. Like, we're not even talking about the numbers, the challenge that the IDF faced in Gaza. Nobody wants to talk about that, like the 40,000 Hamas members, tens of thousands of other terrorist members buried in 400 miles of tunnels, intermixed between a population of 2 million who Egypt won't let into Egypt. There's so many complexities to this battle that no military has faced in the history of war, but nobody cares. They just want to know, what's the civilian death toll? And there is no number.